As I dash from workshop to workshop, I had to create something to keep my hot iron from melting its way through the rest of my supplies. I've got a great tutorial for you. Let's get started. I used Dan Morris's cool fabric called Cute as a Button by Quilting Treasures because I love the actual sewing motif to it, right? And the colors are fantastic. And with my 3/4 of a yard that I started with, I was able to create the little shower cap or the cover for our iron, a cord keeper, and I even have a cool little double pull drawstring bag that fit everything so I can keep it all tidy in my vehicle. And I had a little bit left over as well. We're going to focus today's video though just on creating our cover for the hot iron. And we're also going to use this wonderful product that is called Insul Bright. And Insul Bright is a batting basically that has a metallic, look at this, a metallic innard. And I used 2 layers while creating my hot iron keeper. And I actually tested this thing and tested this thing and tested this thing to make sure that it would really be heat resistant like we need it to be. This stuff is fantastic. So we're going to need some of that as well. You can buy it by the yard or a package. Get yourself a yard if you're working because we're going to use multiple layers, okay? So we're going to custom fit this today to your iron. So one of the first things I want you to do is to take your piece of fabric and we're going to just basically turn it right sides in, right, wrong sides out. And what I want to be able to do is fit my iron right like you see here, but I also want my print to be working for me. So right now I'm going to need about a 3-inch perimeter around my iron to create the cover, and this will not work this way. So I'm going to fold it the opposite direction so that I have my prints going up and down for myself. And hopefully now you can see that my scissors are lined up with my iron, just like I like. And the easiest thing to do is literally center this, take out a fine tip Sharpie or chalk, but I like a Sharpie because it's going to draw a nice little line. And then we're going to lift this up out of the way. And it doesn't have to be perfect. We're just getting ourselves an outline. Let the pen ride along the iron itself. Come around here, because what we really need is we need about a 3-inch perimeter. And so make sure you lay out so you have enough for your markings there as you go around. So I'm going to use the very edge here. I'm going to come down and give myself about a 3-inch mark down here. I'm going to come out about 3 inches from the wide part of my iron here. 8 and 11 is 3 inches there. And then I just eyeball. I'm just eyeballing it. It's easy to the edge here. I don't need to have a real sharp point up there. And again, just kind of visually doing this. If you wanted it to be really, really accurate, of course, what you'd do at the end is you'd fold it in half and then cut it. There. Real simple shape. Then you can take out your Shark rotary cutter if you like, or any other rotary cutter. I'm cutting through 2 layers. I'm just free cutting this through just like that. Across the back and around just like that. Okay, so at this moment, right, make sure you put your cap back on your cutter, keep it safe. We have a couple things we need to discuss. In mine, I made a little buttonhole back here, but I want to pretend like you don't have a buttonhole capable at home. I want to show you a little trick. Maybe this is new for all of you. So we're going to create our opening first, and we're going to come down a good, let's say, inch or so, because this is all going to be folded as our casing. And so what I'm going to first do is I'm kind of eyeballing. I'm in the center of that back flat space. That's where my cord's going to come out. The cord for my bag, not the cord for the iron. And I've done about 1 inch worth of sewing and back. 1 inch worth of sewing and back. And I'm going to do this about 5 times. And the thread is just slightly laying next to the other side of the thread. Okay? And then I'm going to just simply move my needle up. I'm going to move it over about the width of my presser foot. And I'm going to back up because I'd started at the beginning and back. So what we're doing is we're just finishing the threads in the fabric, and it's not going to be beautiful, but it's certainly going to work. And if you didn't have a buttonhole or you just didn't want to take the time, you can do this. We need to do the short ends too. This is just to keep it from getting all unraveled over time. Use my thread cutter, that's what that noise was. And down here, Okay, so as I said, it's not the most beautiful buttonhole in the world, but it will certainly allow us to get that cord right back out of the cover we're creating, and that's the draw cord, not the cord for the iron, right? So you don't need to make it big enough for the head. And then I'm just going to use my shark to lay a little slot in there, and we'll tend to the rest of that later. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go right sides together, just like yay, and I'm going to sew, starting with a little bit of the corner all the way around and finish right here. And I'm just going to do that with my 1/4 inch seam allowance, so I like to use my edge guide. Put this right in place like that. And this is why I cut both pieces at once. Even though it's custom, they are the same sizes. And I just set that back stitch, come around here for my corner, and I'm just going to go all the way around. I'll meet you at the ironing board when I'm done. So we just made our way around there, and we got to tidy off a little bit of space first. And what we're going to do is we're going to turn this thing right sides out and press it at the same time, so that we then know what size to cut our Insul Bright. We want our Insul Bright to fit on the inside seam allowances. You could clip your curves if you wanted to, but it's really not necessary. We're just making a real easy little cover here. I'm going to turn that edge back in while we're doing it, like yay. And then I just like to kind of come through, and I'm just pressing here. Just pressing along. And this will give me the size I need to create for my heat barrier there. So then for that, like I said, I want to have 2 layers, right? So I'm going to go ahead and make this, fold it again, but I also need it to fit basically inside of here without causing much problem. So I am going to go ahead right now and quickly trace it, real light, and I really don't want to get this Sharpie on my cover because it's already turned right sides out. So I'm trying to be really delicate with that Sharpie. As I come around, you can see I'm actually kind of letting the pen be just slightly underneath the fabric, because what I'm doing is I'm making it just a little bit smaller, right? So that's just a little smaller than the cover was. And then the other trick is, as I go to cut it, I'm going to cut on the inside of my line. And that'll effectively make it just a little bit smaller again. I love this new little rotary cutter. Obviously I created it, so I love it, but it works great for all this freestyle curves. But you'll notice I'm also moving the fabric as I'm cutting. That's just another little trick, if you haven't seen my videos on freestyle applique, that helps when you're using this tool. There we go. Okay, so now I have my Insul Bright all cut to size, and I do not need to do any stitching or anything to this. We're literally just going to take it now, fold it, and slide it inside. And then I'm just going to work it out nice and flat so that I can go ahead and seal that back edge over. And then all we have to do is create our drawstring casing. So first I kind of push it all in there. And then I'm going to slowly begin working it out nice and flat. I like to try to do both layers at the same time. And I should have told you to make sure you leave it big enough that you can put your hand inside so you can work with it nice. Okay, so I've gotten all of my Insul Bright flattened out, both layers, and one of the things I want you to just take a moment and be concerned about is we are going to be running that draw cord around here. So if you have any lumps in the edges, make sure that you take the time to put your hand back in there and work them out. Then the next thing we're going to do is we're just going to finish this raw edge, right? So basically I'm going to top stitch it. I'm going to fold one side over, and then I'm going to fold the finished edge over like this on top of itself, tuck it in, pinch it, and I'm going to go right to the ironing board. And I'm just going to go a seam all the way across. But I also want to make sure that I do not accidentally stitch close that little buttonhole escape we made earlier for our draw cord. And there we have it. Now, if you wanted to go all the way around the bag, you certainly could, but it's not necessary, because what we do need to do is we do need to move our edge guide out to about a 5/8 or so seam allowance. And then I'm going to go ahead and move over And what we're gonna do now is we're gonna create that casing. So the bigger or the easier you want your draw cord to go through, the more seam allowance you make, right? Okay, and that's where I'm gonna start by stitching here. I'm gonna lock in those threads. And now when I come around, but I need to be very careful on my corners, I don't wanna seal it closed, so I'm gonna pivot. And at this point, you are stitching on the Insul Bright as well. You're securing the Insul Bright now and holding it over, so this will help keep it flat over time. And of course, if you wanted to go in and run some quilt layers of stitching and stuff, you could. But again, this is just a travel bag. I assume mine will get a little bit soiled quickly, but it did not scar or burn. I was really impressed, and I did all kinds of like 20-minute hot iron tests and stuff. Oh my goodness, you should have seen what I did to my poor bag to make sure that I could really feel comfortable to recommend this product here. And we're just creating that draw cord casing really easy. Don't sew your corner closed. You want to make sure you can rotate through here. And then just find that spot where you started from. Go ahead and backstitch a few times. And we have the base and everything already secured and structured for going ahead and taking our paracord, right? And I've got some of this I've already taken off. Okay, make sure you have plenty to go all the way around the bag. Help yourself to a safety pin. And even though I love those curved safety pins for my quilt basting, a straight safety pin is going to help us out a bunch. Take that safety pin and go from the outside up in. And I should have told you I've already melted my ends. And I just did that with either a stove. I did mine with a regular lighter. And then I'm going to run that cord up and through this casing, and like any good brand new sweatshirt that comes out of the dryer and you forgot to tie knots in the ends of your hoodies, we're just going to slowly work our way through here. As you can see, that safety pin made its way out. And I'm going to go ahead and just pull some of the slack first so I can still lay this nice and flat. Don't let your cord get away from you. You're going to need a couple of cord locks. And like I said, I'll show you that lighter trick here real quick. What we're going to do now is give ourselves a few extra inches. I'm going to just cut it nice and clean. And then what I do is I actually use the blue part of the lighter down in there to heat it up, and that causes it to start to melt. Let it cool for a second. Pinch that like that. And kids, I know you're watching. I love the fact that I have you all entertained with my man sewing videos, but you must ask your parents for help if you are using that lighter. You know my rules. So here goes my cord lock. Now this one, it's really tight. So I'm gonna pinch it and slide in one. I'm gonna pinch it and slide in the other. Come on now. There we go. Then what I like to do is I like to pull both cords through, make a little knot towards the end this way. And then what you get to do is you get to take your iron and fit it in. And then as you snug it up, it fits perfect. Isn't that awesome like that? And like I said, you've got the 2 layers of the Insul Bright in there. So at the end of your workshops, you literally unplug your iron, let it cool for a second or two, but if you have to jump right in your car, you can put it in here safely. That's why there's enough of this perimeter to go around, and it will literally not burn anything in your vehicle. It will get nice and warm, so be careful, but it will not hurt anything in the car as you travel. And like I said, I also did this cool little cord keeper down here, and I also did a double pull drawstring bag, and I have 2 fun tutorials for you on those projects. So we've got links at the end of this video, right, which is coming up very, very soon. I just want to point out real quickly though, for the drawstring bag, this dimension is different than the one in the first tutorial. So all you're going to do is put your cover on your iron, measure a few inches past. It was 3 inches I used on my cut pieces, so that then the iron will fit in here perfectly when we're all done. And like I said, those links are right there for you at the end of this video. And I love disaster stories. I shouldn't admit it. So I want to hear your best disaster story, and it can't be mine. My best disaster story is this. I once was carrying one of those lightweight tables around at a quilt guild, and there was this very interesting shape burned right through the middle of it. And as I'm carrying it, I said to the gal, "Hey, did you have an ironing accident?" And she said, "How did you know?" We'll see you next time at Man Sewing. Thanks for being a Man Sewing fan. It's great to have you out there encouraging me to create fantastic new content. If you've missed any of the videos, we've got links for you here and here. And while you're checking those out, make sure you're subscribed. We don't want you to miss any of the action.